Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Dave Life with DLTV News. I'm here with my political correspondent and staff writer, Tom Jackson, calling in from Chicago. How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing all right, David.
So I wanted to get on and just give the people an update on what we've been covering with the Iran attacks. Giving us a little bit of background. I'll set up the topic and I'll let you go. On Dave Life TV, there's a few articles that we posted today related to the Iran attacks. Well, let's start. A few days ago, Trump ordered the murder / assassination / national defense killing of the Iranian general Qasem Soleimani. So they took him out via a drone attack, and Iran wasn't happy about it. That was Trump's response to different provocations that were going on with Iran. They kind of attacked the American embassy, and then Trump retaliated with the killing of Soleimani. And then more escalations occurred where there was an $80 million bounty put on Trump by way of the people that attended the funeral. The Iran MP Abulfazi Abturabi, he was speaking on saying that, if the United States, that they're going to retaliate and that they're going to attack the United States as soon as they're done mourning, their 3 days of mourning, and sure enough, they did. And then Trump, go for it, Tom.
Yeah, almost immediately upon the end of that, I think I guess it wasn't unexpected. It was a bit of a surprise that it was as soon after the mourning was done. The interesting thing about the attack is that it was actually launched from Iran, not from any of their proxies within Iraq itself. And there was a statement in that particular action. It said that we are going to attack U.S. bases ourselves, not use whatever proxies that we had in Iraq.
And for those that don't know, a proxy could be another location in Iraq. It could be, it could be anything other than a directly detectable, Iranian source. So
exactly. The Iranians may have supported, but were not actually part of, for example, the group that attacked the embassy.
Correct.
Last week. So, and there was, I guess, some intelligence that indicated that Soleimani was helped plan things like that throughout Iraq by some of the other proxies that existed there.
From my understanding, Soleimani was he was their military, the head of their military. He was the second in command in Iran, only to the Ayatollah that's there, and he was very influential in a lot of the various attacks that were happening. From what I understand, U.S. intelligence was saying that he was behind a lot of the terrorist groups being able to move in and out of Iran freely, and so people were saying that he wasn't a good person and that he kind of had this coming, but at the same time, he is the head of a state or the second in command of a state. So this is killing, an official, not a terrorist, but an official.
Of an actual country, not he did have a lot of American blood on his hands. He was not a good man, and the world in that regard is probably better without him. However, the method in which it was done, the claims for the motivation for doing it, such as this is going to de-escalate the terrorist activities in Iraq toward Americans. Obviously, as we've found out tonight, that is certainly not the case. There was retaliation. As you recall, in the last few days, Trump had tweeted that he would retaliate against any retaliation targeting, well, essentially committing war crimes by attacking
cultural sites.
Yeah, exactly, cultural sites. Remember, as we know, Iraq is the Persian people are a 5,000-year-old society. There is a lot of amazing culture that behind that. Same with Iran. With Iran, Iran is not a new nation. I heard someone say that this is not something that Winston Churchill was able to designate as a nation after World War II. This is something that has predated pretty much any civilization that currently exists. And again, they're a very proud country. They were actually protesting their government in recent week, for a long time. And the only thing that kept that from happening probably this week was the fact that the people who would otherwise be protesting the Iranian government were attending the morning services of the
general
of Soleimani.
So Tom, real quick, from the details I heard about the attack, and tell me if you've heard this also, is that the attack occurred. The first missiles were launched at around 5:20 p.m. Eastern time, which is equivalent to 1:20 a.m. over in Baghdad in Iraq, which was the same exact time that General Soleimani was killed. So Qasem Soleimani was killed at 1:20 a.m. 3 days ago or 4 days ago, and then they launched an attack on two of our bases, on Al-Assad and on Embiid. So did you hear that as well? That it was attacked, that they launched them around the same time as kind of like a symbol?
This is the first effort, but again, that's not something I'm surprised by. This is the actors involved in this think that way. There's a message with the carnage, and what unfortunately, as Trump said he was going to do, he was going to target 52 sites because of the fact that Iran had kidnapped
52 hostages.
52 hostages
back in 1979. 40 years ago.
Exactly. And and here's what bothers me, what scares me the most about this. There's a couple things. One is that when you've got what we know about Trump is that when something like this happens, he will not let it go.
Right.
He will feel weak unless he responds.
Right.
Unless he retaliates.
Right. He has a very, very large ego, very insecure president.
Yeah, and any sign of weakness he feels is well, like I said, this is not going to be the last of any kind of attacks, and that's the scary part. Another scary part, and this is from a personal perspective, as you know, Dave, I've got one of my children is former military. He actually served in Iraq through much of the war in the early aughts of this century, and he is currently a contractor, defense contractor, who was working in the Middle East at the military bases. So this is the kind of thing that I dread greatly because, like I said, this is a personal issue. I know that my kid is he's a grown up. He knows what he's doing. Very few people do what he does, and he does get paid well for it. But this is the kind of thing that I dread.
Because it puts Americans in harm's way.
It does
unnecessarily.
It does, and if there's some way.
Like to de-escalate?
Calmer, more reasonable minds can come. Yeah, exactly. Can come forward.
That's a good point. I want to jump in on that point about de-escalation really quick, and praying for your family and your son and all of our troops, because that's super important. I don't want to gloss over that. But they were saying with Trump and his administration, they said that right now the Pentagon is not responding because they want to see the exact damage that occurred. They're waiting for sunlight to hit in about an hour or two, and they are advising Trump that whatever you do, you have a moment to de-escalate. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you attacked, they retaliated. But
Mm-hmm.
one thing I will say about these attacks, there are no confirmed casualties. And in fact, what they're saying is the ground-to-ground missiles that they use, they have navigation on them, and they're saying that the Iranis could target specific things. And they're saying that on Al-Assad air base, they targeted areas that were not populated. So it's almost like the Iranis were doing this as a warning shot to Trump, saying, listen, you can be touched, we can get to you. You know, we don't want to necessarily push it farther, but we had to respond. So what I think officials are hoping is that the Pentagon will advise Trump to de-escalate and go a more diplomatic route to resume talks with Iran instead of coming back with more military. Because if they come back with more military, then Iran will have to come back with more military action. And now we're probably in a full stage war. So we're hoping that they can de-escalate.
And the fact is, we do have a superior military force. That's never been questioned here.
Correct.
But that does not mean we're not going to suffer severe casualties.
Correct.
Of blood and treasure, and it's just not going to be a positive situation for anybody. And this is a situation that we did not have to be in.
Correct.
I at the moment have very little faith that the White House and the Department of Defense are going to get their talking points straight soon, because they seem to be very contradictory to this point. For example, the letter that was actually sent to Iraq saying that we would be withdrawing all troops,
right?
Having to withdraw that, the very next day. Things like that do not give me confidence in who is running the show.
Tom, do you think there's a political agenda here in the last 4 minutes or so? Do you think that there's a political agenda in terms of Trump wanting to two things? Number one, undo everything that Obama did with the treaty, the peace treaty that we had with Iran, and the nuclear treaty we had with Iran. That's pretty much undone. So was that an agenda? And then number two, is there an agenda to take our eyes off of impeachment and make him look stronger as a wartime president?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's the thing. Trump believes everyone else thinks the way he does. And as you recall, I think it was 7 or 8 years ago, he had tweeted that, it was right before the 2012 election. He tweeted that Obama was going to get into a war with Iran to help his re-election chances.
He did.
That's all we need to see. We know that Trump, being the master of projection, thinks that way.
Right.
We also know that the impeachment situation, he's been eager to get this off the headlines on the
off the radar,
off the phone, the newspapers. And what particularly bothers me is that every action he's taken thus far would probably constitute additional grounds for impeachment.
Correct.
Abuse of power, obstruction of Congress. He didn't get there and did not get them involved in the decision.
In the attack, because it was an executive order. He didn't go through the normal means to get approval from Congress.
No, he did not. And
wow.
that's without a doubt. And like I said, I don't see it's going to help, because I will be honest with you. The more I see Trump do, the more I think impeachment and removal is probably not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Especially, I said, from a personal standpoint, I got a kid who is involved in this.
Well, Tom, we're up on our time limit. I know we both have things to do in the morning. Appreciate your help being a political correspondent and a staff writer for Dave Life TV. You've been here since day one. Keep the stories coming. Keep us abreast of what's going on in the Middle East and with Trump domestically and abroad. And man, as you know more, feel free to call in, and we can set up a conference call, and we can give the people our opinion and give them the news.
Let's do more of these discussions.
All right, thanks.
I'm sure something to talk about.
Absolutely. This is Dave Life and Tom Jackson for Dave Life TV News.